The movie is about passengers trapped on a sinking plane in the ocean, battling rising water, limited oxygen, and deadly predators. The film starts with a woman's body sinking into the water, her eyes snapping open in panic. Brandon jolts awake, realizing it was just a nightmare. As the governor's daughter Ava's bodyguard, he's haunted by guilt over failing to protect her mother. Ava joins her pals Jed and Kyle at the airport once she and Brandon arrive. While Ava explains that her father wouldn't have allowed her to travel without protection, the lads are upset that Brandon is joining them on their trip. As Ava notices that there are unusually few people on the aircraft, she makes the observation that it's unusual for Ava and the boys to seat in the rear for solitude. Mild turbulence occurs shortly after takeoff, which is first written off as typical. The engine is obviously overheating, though, as the shaking gets worse. There's no need to panic, the captain tells the passengers. The plane only hit some birds. Despite these assurances, the situation worsens when an engine bursts into flames. The pilot urgently instructs everyone to fasten their seat belts as anxiety mounts among the passengers. A portion of the engine breaks off in a terrifying turn of events, hitting the side of the aircraft and killing a passenger. The aircraft's wall cracks as a result of this hit, significantly changing the cabin pressure. Inside the aircraft, anarchy therefore breaks out. The plane crashes into the ocean, filling it with water. As soon as it hits the sea, the force pushes the chairs forward, crushing several of the passengers. After sinking for a few minutes, the plane finally stops when it becomes lodged on the ocean floor. Because of the plane's angled position, an airlock forms in the back, saving the lives of Ava, her companions, and flight attendant Danilo. But Kyle's arm has a fractured bone and stares at the water, worried about the weird noises they are hearing. Suddenly, Brandon comes out, bringing Rosa and her grandmother Marty to the safe area. Marty is unconscious, so Danilo starts doing chest compressions. After a few minutes of nothing, Marty wakes up. Then, when Rosa inquires about her grandfather, Brandon has to inform both Marty and her that he regrettably passed away. As panic spreads across the group, Brandon steps in quickly to take charge, encouraging everyone to remain calm and to wait for help. As they realize how stuck they are inside the submerged jet, Ava finds her phone is dead. She finds a hole in the plane beneath the water and advises swimming out. But Brandon swiftly suggests they stay there because their chances of surviving are higher inside. Danilo comforts everyone, saying that rescuers could show there shortly because the pilots probably called for assistance before to the disaster. To prepare for a potentially prolonged wait, Brandon proposes checking their oxygen supply. Danilo, upon inspecting the emergency reserves, shockingly reports the 2 tanks in the back are empty. At this crucial moment, Marty recalls seeing another passenger with a medical oxygen tank. Brandon volunteers to brave the water to retrieve it. Marty personally requests that he also get her husband's cap as he is ready to depart. Without spotting anything swimming past the window, he discovers the husband's hat and snatches it. Subsequently, he locates and snatches the oxygen tank. He swims a little farther in quest of anything more he can take before checking on the hole. A shark emerges from the hole and Brandon is instantly bitten by the beast. The gang notices the water's waves and becomes concerned. Suddenly, the ripples disappear and Brandon resurfaces, telling the others to stay back while revealing some severe wounds on his body. Breathing heavily, he hands the others the oxygen tank and the hat before apologizing to Ava. After he's pulled back into the water, the gang witnesses the shark's tail snaking out as it devours the unfortunate man. Fearful, the party retreats to the workers' area to hide, and they decide to stick with Brandon's advice to wait. Offering to tend to Kyle's arm, Marty explains that she met her husband while working as a nurse during the war. When Marty forces the bone back into position, Kyle yells in agony. She then makes an improvised splint out of bandages and several thick magazines. A helicopter is circling the area outside, looking for the downed aircraft. Knowing that the governor's daughter is among the fatalities has given them priority orders. But as of right now, they are unable to see anything. Back to the survivors, they hear some creaking and the plane moves for a few seconds, indicating it may fall again at any moment. It is starting to get too negative, and Danilo opens the oxygen tank Brandon retrieved. They understand that sharks have entered to consume the drowned remains when they see the water turning crimson and hear sounds. The jet jostles violently as the anxiety builds, bringing everyone's attention to the sight of sharks scraping against the fuselage and hitting strewn pieces of the plane as they pass. As the above helicopter exhausts its fuel and resumes its unsuccessful search, the situation becomes more serious. The gang carefully watches the water level inside the cabin rise. They figure they have 3 or 4 hours before it reaches the rear. However, the ominous sound of metal creaking and the sight of water seeping through the ceiling sow doubt about the plane's structural integrity lasting that long. Suddenly, the aircraft lurches downward, sliding and dislodging rocks before coming to a precarious halt once more. Fortunately, everyone escapes unharmed, but the water level inside the aircraft is rising more quickly as a result of this increased angle. The party decides they must swim out of the plane as it is evident the seafloor isn't as solid as they had believed. Since sharks dislike bubbles, Rosa says she heard in school, they'll need to figure out a strategy to divert the sharks. Kyle remembers something out of the blue. Some of the passengers were using dive gear. There's still the issue of being able to hold their breath for that long. According to Danilo, the items are in the luggage hold, and they can enter through a hatch. However, the oxygen tanks are probably empty. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been allowed on the plane. Ava thinks the rest of the scuba equipment could still be useful, but Jed is too pessimistic, so Ava pretends she needs to pee and hides in the bathroom where she has a breakdown as she hears the plane creak. When Ava emerges, she tells Rosa that it's acceptable to feel afraid. The helicopter has just 15 minutes of fuel remaining outside. When they eventually discover plane bits floating about, 2 divers dive into the water to begin their hunt. Finding the plane is not a problem. In fact, as soon as they get nearer, the group begins waving at the window. As one of the divers dives in the direction of the hole, the other goes to the window to reassure the survivors that everything is well. The gang attempts to warn him as the shark suddenly materializes behind him and he misses it. When the diver glances back, he sees nothing. But when he stares at the plane once again, he's pulled down by the shark and killed. After hearing lots of noises above the plane, the group looks out the window and sees the diver's leg floating away. Remembering the other diver, the survivors check out the corridor, but nobody shows up, so they assume that guy is also dead. They are forced to go as the chopper is virtually out of fuel outside. They know the coordinates at least and support is en route. Ava returns to the survivors and notes that they may grab the other diver's oxygen tank if he is dead. She can't be certain, but she sees a shadow when looking underwater. Jed tries to clamber up atop the benches for a better look, but he stumbles and falls into the water. The gang is alarmed when he vanishes, but he soon reappears, giggling, having pulled a practical joke on them. But before long, the funny moment gives way to fear when a shark bites him in the leg. The gang acts quickly, racing to his assistance and successfully pulling him to safety away from the shark's grasp. Tragically, they find that Jed has lost a leg in the ordeal. Marty instructs Rosa to stand behind a curtain for privacy as she attends to Jed's injury. Resourcefully, Marty uses seat belts to fashion a tourniquet, staunching the bleeding. Overwhelmed by the circumstances, Jed sobs, bemoaning that his serious injury now threatens to ruin his triathlon career. Ava offers to go look for the dive gear as she's still determined to go. According to Danilo, they may enter the luggage hold through a hatch, which is where such items are located, and they discover the baggage hold is also flooded. But Ava dives in anyway with a flare. She looks around the area. After a while, she locates the scuba gear. Thankfully, Ava returns quickly with the equipment, as the others start to worry when they see no more light. 3 diving suits and 4 masks are discovered as the gang examines the luggage. They instantly bolt to the window to see what hit the plane, but there was no diver in the area, so they assumed it was a shark. Jed had passed away by the time they turn around. Marty pulls Ava back, exposing the reality, as she tries to perform chest compressions in a desperate attempt. They're surpassed by Kyle and Danilo. Marty watches the younger members proceed, and realizing the rising water will soon overwhelm her ability to escape, chooses to stay behind, resigning herself to a fate she believes will reunite her with her husband. In a panic, Kyle swims back toward a dwindling air pocket. A shark appears in the luggage compartment and attacks and devours Kyle while Danilo tries to save him. Scared, Danilo swims swiftly to join Rosa and Ava, who have found a dead diver and taken his oxygen tank. As Ava is ready to push Rosa and Danilo through the escape hole with the tank, they utilize it to breathe. A shark blocks Ava's path as she is ready to follow, making her turn back. Ava freezes, letting the shark go by without seeing her. But as it swims away, its tail unintentionally rips off her mask. Ava then begins to swim toward the front after realizing that additional sharks are entering the area through the opening. At that moment, the plane starts falling faster, and the water pressure keeps her from moving. But luckily, Ava holds on to the seats and pushes through, managing to leave through the front hole right before the plane falls into the abyss. Ava can now begin swimming to the top, but she quickly runs out of breath and collapses. Her body definitely quits swimming, but happily the flotation devices propel her upwards. She breaths and awakens instantly upon reaching the surface. Ava becomes anxious when she can't see the others, but just then, the helicopters arrive and manage to rescue her from the sea. When Rosa inquires about her grandma, Ava informs her that she and Danilo have already been saved. Rosa tosses her cherished stuffed animal into the sea as a final farewell to her grandparents, and then drifts off to sleep in Ava's arms. Subscribe and hit the bell for more awesome videos. Thanks for watching.